Hi folks, Tim here. Welcome back to Elmendorf Acres. Today I'm going to be talking about fire safety and fire extinguishers a little bit. And a spoiler alert, I am going to be taking apart a dry chem, otherwise known as an ABC fire extinguisher, and showing you what is actually inside those. So this stuff is fresh on my mind, and you've seen my garage before. Yeah, it's a little bit messy for sure. We've been working on cleaning it, but that seems to be a never-ending project. Now, I have actually used fire extinguishers quite a few times personally. I'm in the fire department for 20 years or thereabouts, and we've seen them used there many times. I've used them there as well, but I have used them for my own personal stuff. I was working on a zero-turn mower one time, and yes, doing something very stupid. I had jacked the front of it up, and I was grinding the blades on there, touching them up real quick because we had hit a rock, and I wanted to sharpen the blades. Well, what I didn't realize was we had also just filled the gas tank. And this is on an old mower. This is quite a few years ago now, probably 18 or 19 years ago. But I had the front of the machine tilted up, and a little bit of gas had leaked down the back side of the gas tank and was running down the tires. Well, as the sparks from that grinder hit, it caught that machine on fire. Thankfully, I had a fire extinguisher in the garage. I hit it with it real quick. It put it out. There was no damage to the garage, even though I was outside the garage. I will say that. But there was no damage to the garage, no damage to the machinery, anything like that, because I had that fire extinguisher within a couple seconds reach. So that's the first thing I want to say is if you've got a garage, make sure you got a fire extinguisher there. Right over here, you can see right between the bays, right there, I got a fire extinguisher mounted on the wall. Now, that can be easily accessed from outside the garage or inside the garage, and from both bays. So I have that sitting there. Now, you all have seen our small engine room before. We work on our small engines in this room, which means we have gas and oil, and we'll occasionally start up real quick just to see if something's running. I've got a fan in the window that pushes the fumes through, and it makes it pretty safe to work in here. Nice on a rainy day. So one of the things we decided to do was right here by the door. This is a door to the outside. I've got a hole behind me from the garage. Right here by the door, there's a fire extinguisher. Now, yes, it is in behind this steel here, but it's very, very easily and quickly accessible. So we've got two there. I've got another one on the outside of the garage, and the lean-to in the back where we keep some other things, some a little bit of gas and oil, etc. So I have one back there, one by this door, one by the bay doors, and there's usually one or two kicking around the garage somewhere else. As a matter of fact, I have one, I moved it out a little bit, and of course we have a wonderfully messy workbench, but I have one sitting right here. Usually it sits right there. So I have one there, which is right near where we do other things. You can see my chainsaw grinder. Haven't used that in a while. I gotta put all kinds of stuff away. But fire safety, think about this stuff. You could lose everything if you don't have an extinguisher handy. Now, we're gonna talk real quick about these different extinguishers. First Alert makes this one. I'm not really partial to any kind, but this is the one that they had at Ace Hardware when they were doing their fire safety specials a couple months ago. This one says BC. It's good for wood as well, which is your simple combustibles, your wood and your paper. But this is what you want to have in your garage, a dry chem extinguisher. This is kind of a small size. You saw I've got a bigger one sitting by the front door. But these are really not that intrusive. They're not super expensive, and they're a really, really good insurance policy. This one's got a bracket. I can mount it right to the wall. And every now and then we want to check to make sure that our gauge is in the green. Let me zoom in on that a little bit there. Want to make sure that that gauge is in the green, which it is. A little hard to see on the camera. There we go. I personally like the ones with metal handles. Both this handle and this handle is metal. I find they hold up better. And the one recall that was had was actually for ones with plastic handles. The other thing that's great to have, everybody should know this, a smoke alarm. Right? You want to have them everywhere. Yes, they're annoying. Mine went off the other night at 2 o'clock in the morning. It woke the whole house up. But I actually had a problem with the chimney. So it worked as it was supposed to do. It woke everybody in the house up. We were able to deal with the problem. Thankfully, no real big issue, but I had a slight blockage in the chimney. We cleaned that out and we were good to go. But at 2 o'clock in the morning, that fire alarm woke us up before we were woken with smoke in our actual bedrooms. So I happen to have a first alert fire extinguisher still in a box here. This is one that says for garage. There we go, that's the English side. One for the garage, ideal for home use. 10-year warranty on them. Either way, they're not terribly expensive. And right on the back, it kind of has a recommended placement, which I would agree with. One in the bedroom, one in the living room, kitchen, basement, and garage. That's a really good guide. I think these run, I don't remember exactly how much these were, between $25 and $40 a piece. But for a couple $100, you get fire extinguishers in a hallway, in a kitchen, in a garage, in a basement. It's a good thing to have. We have them in our house. I really hope I never have to use it. But on the back, it also tells you how to actually use it, which most people should know. If not, there's lots of videos on how to properly use a fire extinguisher. There are different types of fire extinguisher. The ABC or the dry chem is the most popular and common out there. They are in most public buildings. Anybody with a commercial vehicle with all the DOT requirements, we have to have them in the cab. As a matter of fact, let's come over here and we'll look at my white truck because it's right here in front of the garage. And I will show you where we've got one mounted right in the cab. So if I open the door, it's right there. And yeah, we're a little dirty in the cab today, but our fire extinguisher is right there. Easily accessible. I've got two in the landscape trailer as well. One by the back door and one by the side door. You never know when you're going to need them. Again, they're cheap insurance policy. And no, I assure you, this is not a video promoting a certain type of fire extinguisher. We're not paid for them, etc. But it was fresh on my mind. We were at a little chimney fire last night, and we actually used the fire extinguisher as the first thing there because somebody had a fire extinguisher before the fire truck got there. So that was the primary first attack, was your little fire extinguisher. So let's get down to business here. We're going to open up a dry chem extinguisher. And what happened was we did a drill recently with the fire department, and we had a few of these that were out of date, were expired, and the best thing for us to do with them is to train with them, discharge them, and then get them recharged, inspected, so on and so forth. Okay, so kind of an interesting note here. This is a smaller fire extinguisher. This is the same size as the one that I have between my bay doors, and we used this one the other night as part of our drill. And what we did with this one, it's a very small one, but what we did was we did just a couple second burst with it, and we were done with the drill for the night. So this got put aside. Now, when we had discharged it, it was still showing on our meter here, or on our gauge here, this was still showing in the green. One of the keys with a dry chem or ABC extinguisher with this powder, if it has been used at all, it needs to be replaced. Because one of the things that you'll see now is that gauge is down in the red. And if I hit that handle, nothing comes out at all. And what happens is that fine powder gets in here and it discharges the pressure. So let's get down to what we actually wanted to do here, which is let's see what's inside one of these fire extinguishers. So I'm actually going to be wearing a mask when I'm doing this because this powder gets everywhere. And I'd be doing it outside if it was not raining. But they just screw off. Same way a pressurized water does. The tops just screw off. They're on pretty tight usually. And it's got a tube in there. And that tube goes all the way to the bottom. And that's what your powder comes up and then out the hose. All right, so that's your assembly. Let's get rid of these guys. We're not going to need them right now. There we are. So this is your assembly. You've got a hose, You've got your handle. You usually have a pin here, and you squeeze this, the powder comes up and out. That's how they work, real simple. I'm not gonna get much more detailed than that. The reason I wanted to take these apart is the chemical inside, we actually use that when we have chimney fires. So I've got an empty Folgers can here, and we're gonna just dump this out. Like I said, this stuff it makes a pretty good mess. But you can see that's kind of how it works. When you actually have a fire, this powder gets all over everything, and let me tell you, it tastes horrible. There is a lot of powder in these things. Like I said, we put out a small fire with this one. We were doing some live burn training. Go turn the fan on over in the other room so we got a little air through here. Whew. Okay, well you can see that just by dumping this into here, I've made quite a mess on my work table here. But that is how fine this powder is. It is extremely fine powder and dust, and that's how it works. It smothers the fire. So one of the reasons we save this is we will actually use this chemical if we have a chimney fire, because especially masonry chimneys, if you have, let's say, I'll back up a little bit here, if you have a fire pit in your backyard and it's made out of stone or masonry, and if you spray water on that, the rocks are going to explode. Well, that's the exact same thing that happens with a masonry chimney. So if we can drop this down, and if you have, like in my house, a 32 or a 36 foot chimney, if that fires towards the bottom of that, you have to think about just how hot that masonry chimney is going to be all the way to the top. And the last thing I want to do is spray water down my masonry chimney and have to replace a 36 foot chimney, which would be a major home renovation. So what we can do is we can, in some cases, take these and we put them inside little Ziploc bags basically, and make our own homemade bomb that drops down and poof, it goes out. About 50% of the time it works. So it's handy to have this. So I will take this and I will put this in Ziploc bags. But the neat thing is, let's see here, I don't know how well you can see that, but look at that powder. Right, this is a very fine powder, but it almost acts fluid-like. See that? There's no water in this. This is extremely dry, as you can see from when I was dumping it into this, but it acts very water-like. So that is the rundown of your dry chem extinguisher. Take that mask off. So that's the rundown of your dry chem extinguisher. They're a very simple design. They work amazingly well. Like I said, I have put fires out with them many times over the last 20 years. Some of them were my own fires by stupid mistake. Other ones were, I have been driving down the road and we've seen something on fire and we were able to catch it in time. That's a key, right? You want to be safe. But we were able to catch it in time and use the fire extinguisher to put something out before more damage was done. So this was just a quick video on fire extinguishers and fire safety. Again, be safe. Think about things a little bit. Fire extinguishers, yeah, they might seem expensive, but think about what else you spend money on. Like I said, for $200, you can buy a fire extinguisher for your kitchen, for your basement, for your hallway, for the bedroom, whatever the case may be. Fire safety is really, really important. So there's a fire that starts in a residence every 23 seconds in America. That's a lot, that's a big number. And with a little bit of fire prevention, you can help that number. You can help it not happen to you. And there's mistakes that are made by everyone. I've been in the fire service for 20 years and I still make stupid mistakes, and I've been in the fire service. So it's embarrassing when it happens, but you call the fire department, they show up and they deal with it, that's great. And let me say a quick disclosure here. This is not meant to be a training video on how to use a fire extinguisher or legal advice or advice of what's the best thing to do. This is just things that I have found have worked over the years. Like I said, a couple fire extinguishers in the house, 1 or 2 in the garage. We actually have a couple very small ones tucked away a couple places, and I've never tried them out. I've never used them. I'm hoping that they'll work if we ever need them. But fire extinguishers in general work really well. And actually, when we do our maple syrup stuff, I have a what we like to call a water can, but I have a fire extinguisher in there because of the amount of heat and fire. But I don't want to discharge a dry chem unless I absolutely need to, because it would contaminate everything. That dust just gets on everything. So what we have, I got a whole bunch of them sitting over here actually, is I got the big old fire extinguisher. Works well. I can charge it, I fill it with water, I pressurize it here, and I can reuse it. So I have that, stays in the sap house. They stay empty most of the year until I'm ready to actually boil, or until I think I'm going to do something where I need it. You know, sometimes I'll pressurize a couple of them and bring them to a property if we're burning brush or something like that, just to have a little extra water where, hey, maybe the hose doesn't reach and I can run a couple 100 feet in the woods and put something out quick with that. You'd be amazed with a little bit of training and practice how far and just how much fire a fire extinguisher can put out. So again, not meant to be a training video. It's more of just an informational video of what I found has worked, fire extinguishers, how they work, and what's inside of them. Like I said, pretty cool with the dry chem. It's essentially like a really fine flour. So if you take flour in your kitchen and it poofs a little bit and gets everywhere, yeah, that's what this stuff is like, only on steroids. So thank you for watching our video today. I hope you found it informative, a little bit educational. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below this video. I love to hear what people are thinking, what they have to say about this. And if there's something I haven't thought about, let's talk about that too. Oh, one thing that I didn't mention since we discussed fire extinguishers and fire alarms, make sure you've got that CO alarm in your house. On the package, it will tell you where it should be, how to mount it, things like that. They do not go on the ceiling. They go down a little bit because CO stays low. So make sure you have a couple carbon monoxide alarms in your house as well. And one thing with the carbon monoxide alarm, once that alarm has been compromised with carbon monoxide, it needs to be discarded and it needs to be replaced. Yes, I know they can get expensive at $20, $30, $40 a piece, but if it saves you or a loved one, or who knows, your dog, your cat, your bird, whatever the case may be, it's well worth the $30 or $40, and the occasional inconvenience of them going off with a malfunction or maybe cooking. I know I've set our smoke alarms off cooking a few times, and the occasional inconvenience of that, the safety factor far outweighs the occasional inconvenience of a false alarm. So that's all for today, folks. Thank you for watching Elmendorf Acres. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. As of recording this video, I think we're at 941. So we've almost hit our 1,000 subscriber mark. We're about a year into the videos. So thank you everyone who watches our videos, who comments, who has subscribed, and who has shared. Now, I'm sure you've heard this 100 times from 100 different YouTube producers. The subscribe and the share and the likes and the comments are really, really big deals. We have an enormous amount of views and watch time. And if the people who watched and viewed would subscribe, we'd have tens of thousands of subscribers at this point. So if you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. That costs you absolutely nothing. And it's something that you can do. It costs absolutely nothing, and it supports our efforts here at Elmendorf Acres. Again, thank you for watching, and Merry Christmas. As of a couple days ago, Merry Christmas, and have a Happy New Year.